I'm Miriam. I still vividly remember that family dinner, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. The dining room at my parents' house was filled with 22 people, the good china out, and the overhead light feeling like a spotlight on our family's hidden secrets. My father, Victor, sat at the head of the table, hands folded, his sharp jaw set. He had always been the pillar of our family in the small town of Riverdale, a respected business owner and a devout member of the local church. My mother, Amelia, sat beside him, her eyes red from what I now realize were cried tears to set the emotional tone. Victor's voice was steady, measured, like he was delivering a sermon. I asked everyone here tonight because our family is under attack, he said, pausing for effect. Over the past week, some of you may have heard rumors, accusations based on a DNA test that my daughter, Miriam, and her sister, Hannah, pursued. I sat at the far end facing my father, looking around at the 21 pairs of eyes, some sympathetic, most skeptical. Aunt Vera clicked her tongue, and Uncle Oscar shook his head. My older brother, Leo, stared at the table, while Hannah looked like she wanted to disappear. Victor leaned forward. I have given this family everything, and this is how I'm repaid. Miriam, I'm going to give you a chance right here in front of this family to put this to rest. Tell everyone that you made a mistake, that you got carried away by a test result you don't fully understand. Just as I was about to speak, the front door opened. In walked my grandmother, Eleanor. She hadn't been invited to a family dinner in over a year, but she walked in like she owned the place. She was 82 years old, with a sharp mind and a spirit that couldn't be broken. She wore a long, elegant purple dress, held a walking stick in her right hand, and had a thick, old manila envelope tucked under her left arm. Victor stood up. Mom, this doesn't concern you. Eleanor fixed him with a steely gaze. It has concerned me for 30 years. Victor, sit down. The room fell into a deep, structural silence. Eleanor was the matriarch, and everyone at the table knew that when she spoke, things were about to change. She walked slowly past Aunt Vera, Uncle Oscar, Leo, and Hannah, all the way to the far end of the table. She pulled out the chair next to mine and sat down, then placed the manila envelope on the table. Victor's eyes locked onto the envelope, and for a brief moment, I saw a crack in his confident facade. Eleanor didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Every person in the room leaned in as she began to speak. 30 years ago, my son, Victor, had an affair with a woman named Isabel. She worked for him at his business. She got pregnant, and Victor, in a moment of panic, gave her a choice: silence or lose her job. She was 26, with no savings and no family support. She left town and raised his son, Ethan, alone. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Victor pushed his chair back and stood up. Mom, stop. You're confused. Eleanor's voice didn't waver. I am 82 years old, and I am not confused. I am tired of being quiet, tired of being called crazy, and tired of watching you sit here and play the victim while your son grew up without a father. She turned to the rest of the family. Amelia knew about this. She found out when Miriam was about 8. Instead of doing the right thing, she helped Victor silence me. Every time I tried to bring it up, they cut me off, made me seem like I was losing my mind. Aunt Vera's hand dropped from Amelia's arm, and Uncle Oscar's jaw tightened. A cousin at the far end whispered, "Oh my God." I pulled out my phone, the screen already open to the DNA results page. Ethan Holt has a 25.3% shared DNA with me, 25.1% with Hannah, and 24.8% with Leo. That's half sibling range. 3 separate kits, 3 separate samples, 3 separate results. Victor tried to dismiss it. Someone tampered with it, but his words had no weight. Aunt Vera looked at Victor, then at Amelia, and asked, "Is this true?" The silence that followed was the answer. Eleanor placed her hand flat on the manila envelope. "Open it, Miriam." I lifted the flap. Inside were 3 items. The first was a photograph of a toddler, a little boy with dark hair and big brown eyes, looking fearlessly into the camera. On the back was written, Ethan, 24 months. The second was a photo of a young Victor, smiling, carefree and unguarded. The third was a letter, handwritten in neat cursive, from Isabel. Eleanor took the two photographs and placed them side by side on the table. The resemblance was undeniable. This is your nephew, Ethan. He is 32 years old, a mechanic, and he has a 6-year-old daughter named Lucy. He has never met anyone from this family. Victor said nothing, his chin dropping to his chest. Amelia broke down, not the practiced crying from before, but a raw, ugly crying. I knew. I've known since Miriam was 8. I had 3 kids, no job, no savings. I didn't know where to go. I looked at her. I understand the staying, Mom, but I don't understand the rest. When Grandma tried to speak up, you helped Dad shut her down. Amelia whispered, I didn't know how to leave, so I learned how to pretend. I replied, but pretending cost Grandma 30 years, and it cost Ethan a father. Victor stood up. I'm done. This family is done. He walked to the front door, opened it, and closed it behind him without another word. Leo stared at the spot where Victor had been sitting. Is this real? I said, you can check your own results, Leo. All 3 of us match. He leaned forward, pressing his palms against his temples. I called you a liar.
I'm sorry.
I just believed Dad. I reached across the table and put my hand on his forearm. I know, Leo. That's how it worked. Hannah was still crying quietly. Aunt Vera sat with her arms unfolded, looking at Eleanor with an expression of grief. Uncle Oscar cleared his throat and stared at the tablecloth. Then Leo asked the question that mattered. Does Ethan want to meet us? Eleanor smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in years. That night, from Eleanor's kitchen, I called Ethan. He picked up on the second ring, his voice careful and braced. Ethan, I told them. Tonight, in front of the whole family, they know. There was a long silence. How bad? Bad, but honest. For the first time in 30 years, honest. I heard him exhale, a long, shaking breath. My father walked out, but my brother Leo asked if you'd want to meet the family. Another silence. I've got a daughter, Miriam. Her name is Lucy. She's 6. She asks me sometimes why she doesn't have grandparents like the other kids at school. I handed the phone to Eleanor. There's someone here who wants to talk to you. Eleanor held the phone like it was something precious. Ethan, this is your grandmother. My name is Eleanor, and I am so sorry it took this long. I watched Eleanor's face as she listened to Ethan. Her chin trembled, her eyes squeezed shut, and she pressed her free hand flat against her chest. You have a family. It's messy and it's broken, but it's real. And you were always part of it, even when they tried to erase you. Let me take you back to a few months ago. In Riverdale, a town of about 10,000 people, our family was well known. Victor was a successful business owner, respected in the community. Amelia was involved in various charity events, always the perfect hostess. Leo was the high-achieving son, a lawyer with a big firm. Hannah was the bubbly, charming one, always the life of the party. And then there was me, the middle child, a teacher at the local school, always the responsible one. One summer, at our annual family reunion, Hannah showed up with a box full of DNA testing kits. Let's have some fun and find out where we're really from, she said, bouncing with excitement. Most of the family laughed and started spitting into the little tubes. Victor didn't seem happy. He stood there, his spatula in hand, staring at the box like it was a ticking time bomb. I don't need a machine to tell me who I am, he said. Hannah tried to reassure him. It's just for fun, Dad. It tells you your ancestry percentages. Victor picked up a kit, turned it over once, and set it on the side table. Amelia did the same. They never sent their samples in, but what they didn't know was that these DNA platforms have a feature called DNA relatives. 3 weeks later, I got the notification on my phone. The ethnicity estimate was boringly expected, but when I tapped on DNA relatives, my world turned upside down. At the top of the match list was a name I'd never seen before. Ethan H. 25. 3% shared DNA, a half-sibling. Ethan had already sent me a message. Hi, I know this is strange. I've been looking for my biological father for 16 years. My mom never told me his name. 3 days ago, Your DNA matched mine as a half-sibling. I don't want to cause trouble. I just want to know, am I your brother? I called Hannah, and her voice was shaking. Miriam, did you see? I matched him, too. Just then my phone rang. It was Victor. His voice was angry. What did you do? What did you and your sister do? I told him. I didn't do anything, Dad, but apparently someone at that table isn't who they say they are. He went silent for 5 full seconds, then said, How is he in the system? How the hell is he in the system? I realized he knew who Ethan was. He started threatening me. That man is nobody. If you respond to him, you're choosing a stranger over your own family. Delete the message, delete the app, and don't say a word to anyone else. Amelia called 40 minutes later, crying and using my job as a teacher against me. Your father has high blood pressure. This kind of stress could put him in the hospital. You understand, don't you? I asked her. Did you know? She replied, It's complicated. Hannah called an hour later, panicked. Dad just called me. He said if this doesn't stop, he's selling Grandma's house. He said she needs professional care at Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook was the assisted living facility that everyone in town whispered about. I called Eleanor, and she was calm. Let him try. I'd rather sleep in a cardboard box than spend one more day protecting his lie.
Come to my house, Miriam.
I'll tell you everything. That night, in Eleanor's kitchen, she told me the whole story. Isabel had worked for Victor at his business. They had an affair, and when she got pregnant, Victor threatened her. She left town and raised Ethan alone. Isabel called Eleanor for help a year after Ethan was born, but Victor found out and threatened to keep Eleanor away from her grandchildren if she said a word. Amelia found out about the affair when I was 8. Victor begged her to stay, promising it was over. Amelia, with 3 young children and no income, decided to stay. And when Eleanor tried to tell the truth, Amelia and Victor silenced her. I messaged Ethan back that night. Yes, I think you are. We had a video call, and when I saw his face, I saw Victor's jawline, but his eyes were softer, warmer. He told me about his life, how his mom had raised him alone, working multiple jobs. He had a daughter, Lucy, and his apartment was filled with her drawings. In the weeks that followed, Victor started to face the consequences. People in town stopped inviting him to events. Amelia pulled out of her charity work. Our family split. On one side were Leo, Hannah, Eleanor, Aunt Vera, and a few cousins who believed the truth. On the other side were Uncle Oscar, 2 cousins, and some family friends who couldn't reconcile the Victor they knew with the man Eleanor described. Ethan came to Riverdale one Saturday in September. He drove 2 hours with Lucy in the back seat. When he pulled into Eleanor's driveway, he sat there for a minute, looking at the house. Lucy knocked on the window. Daddy, are we going in? Eleanor was standing in the doorway, dressed up, with a touch of makeup. She looked at Ethan, and her face showed a mix of emotions. You have his face, but you have Isabel's eyes. Ethan's chin dropped, and his breath hitched. Lucy looked back and forth between them, confused. Eleanor opened her arms, and Ethan stepped forward. She held him tightly, like she was holding the child she'd never been able to hold. Grandma, are you my great-grandma?
Lucy asked.
Eleanor laughed, a real, bright laugh. I am, sweetheart. I absolutely am. 3 months passed. I went back to teaching, grateful for the normalcy. Ethan started coming to Riverdale every other weekend. He and Eleanor fell into a routine. Lucy would draw on the floor while they had lunch at the kitchen table. Leo met Ethan in October. They sat on Eleanor's porch, mostly quiet, drinking iced tea. Leo said later, I can't believe I have a brother I didn't know about. I told him, You always did. You just didn't know. Hannah slowly came around. She stopped blaming herself. By November, she was sending Ethan funny memes and pictures of her cat. Amelia texted me once a week, short messages like, thinking of you. Hope work is going well. I replied, Mom, I love you, but I won't pretend anymore. When you're ready to be honest, really honest, I'm here. She never responded. Victor called me one Thursday evening in late November. His voice was tired, stripped of the authority I was used to. I'm not calling to apologize.
I don't know how, but I need to ask you something.
Is Ethan okay? I told him, he's good, Dad. He's a mechanic, and he builds beautiful things. He has a daughter, Lucy. She's 6. He said, I made a mess. I replied, yeah, Dad, you did. He said he didn't know what happened next, and I told him, when you're ready to meet him, really meet him, not as a threat or a problem, but as your son, call me. But I'm not holding the door open forever, Dad, but it's not locked. Not yet. He thanked me quietly and hung up. I know that in our family, the worst thing wasn't lying, cheating, or abandoning a child. The worst thing was saying the truth out loud. But I'm done keeping the family secrets. I've set 3 boundaries. I'll have a relationship with Victor only when he acknowledges Ethan. I'll have a relationship with Amelia only when she stops using her emotions to manipulate. And Ethan and Lucy are always welcome in my life. Eleanor held the truth for 30 years, and she taught me that the truth doesn't destroy families. Lies and silence do. I didn't blow up my family, I just stopped helping it stay buried. And Eleanor, with her strength and resilience, is sitting on her porch right now, in her own house on her own terms, exactly where she belongs.